Welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Jacob DeGate, and it's now my pleasure to welcome State Representative Beryl Amedee to the stage.
Thank you, Jacob.
All right, glad to have you here. Of course, recently the legislature had convened into a special session, but before I talk about exactly what y'all did, can you tell us what the problems and what the legislature was trying to address?
Oh, sure. Well, Louisiana has had insurance challenges for a long, long time, and because of the multiple hurricanes in almost in a row, let's see, we had Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida, kind of back to back. It was almost deja vu to Katrina, Rita, Gustav, and Ike. So if you remember, in 2005, we had our insurance challenges turned into an insurance crisis, and that's where we ended up again. And so we had an insurance crisis to solve, and I don't think anybody disagreed that there were some things that needed to be done. But suddenly we were hearing rumors that we might get called into a special session to do something. And so that something was the insurance commissioner himself requesting that we come in for a special session. And it's because when we were in our regular session last year, we passed legislation that recreated the Louisiana, Insure Louisiana Incentive Program, which is what had been created in 2005, and the bill passed just fine. So the program was recreated, but it was not yet funded.
I see. And you know, some of the, I guess, the problems that come to mind with the insurance, it was, of course, the rates were going up, and that's because of basically a lack of competition. Most of the insurers that had insured this area have left, and was the I guess the incentive program is that to try to bring some back to drive down the cost?
Yes, the rates for premiums went up, from my perspective, astronomically, and there were multiple reasons for that. One is because many insurance companies left the state and a few became insolvent, and so that narrowed the number of insurance companies that were even writing policies. The other was the cost of everything went up, especially after 4 hurricanes in a row. The cost of building materials, the cost of labor, if you can even find a contractor, it's been rough. And so the insurance was needing to pay out more, which meant the premiums were going to go up to adjust to that. And so we had 125,000 or so policyholders that were moved on to Citizens. And the Citizens rates increased. Last year, the commissioner approved a 63% increase, and I have constituents who have seen even greater increases than that, and I'm one of them. When we got our wind and hail renewal policy estimate in January, I calculated that our policy premium was going up 164%. So this was much greater than even what the insurance commissioner had approved. And so there are many people in our area, if they receive a bill like that, they're going to have some hard choices to make. There are people who are on fixed incomes who can't just afford to write a check that's double or triple what they wrote last year. There are people who maybe their jobs right now are suffering. I mean, we've just been through COVID plus hurricanes. So there are a lot of reasons that people may not be able to afford such a high increase. If nothing else, it might just be that their family likes eggs. You know how that's going lately.
Exactly.
So with the cost of everything going up, a lot of household budgets are going to be strapped. Not only household, but there are commercial policies that are experiencing the same problems. And so what the commissioner was requesting was that we come into a special session because funding the incentive program is something that really shouldn't wait until regular session. Insurance companies have to buy something called reinsurance. And I'm no insurance expert, and I don't even sit on the insurance committee, but it's my understanding that this is what covers insurance companies to keep them in business, to keep them from going bankrupt.
It's the insurance for the insurance companies,
That's
basically.
right. That's what they count on. And they have to buy this in a world market, and this is the time of year that they are out there purchasing their reinsurance policies or programs. I'm not sure how all that works, but I know that the deadlines that they face are not in our control. this is something that goes on the world market. They have to go to London and some
Sure,
foreign
yeah,
countries.
you have Lloyd's of London was one of those big insurers out there, and a few of them that kind of set all the
all
deadlines
standards.
and everything.
Yeah, the deadlines, the premiums and all. So if we would wait until the regular session to fund the program, then the program could not begin until maybe July. And by then, the insurance companies would have to wait until next year to get reinsurance, which means the program will sit there dormant and not really help anyone. And so right now, 10,000 policyholders a month, just based on the simple math, are getting their renewal notices with the big increases. And we didn't want to have people facing these tough decisions for months and months when there's something we could do about it. So that's why we came into the special session.
Sure, I just got mine in the mail, and although it wasn't a renewal, it was to tell us, sorry, we're leaving the state of Louisiana, so you got to go find somebody else for insurance. So
The session call only had a single item, and it only allowed us to deal with this program, this special program. And so there were a grand total of 2 bills for the whole session. I don't think we've ever had, in all the special sessions I've been through
I've had a
since
bunch.
2016, I don't think we've ever had one that only had 2 bills, but that's all that was really necessary for the one item. So we had House Bill 1, which was passed by our local chairman, Zarang. It was to actually fund the program, which was the primary reason for the session, but it also included a few restrictions concerning which insurance companies would be eligible to participate, because we didn't want to just have some kind of free-for-all where you're dishing out money to anyone who asks. There are certain guidelines that we want the insurance companies to fit in. That way we can be sure that this is going to make, hopefully, some kind of lasting change. So in order to participate, an insurance company has to have, first of all, a high financial strength rating. That's like the A&M Best ratings.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a high rating. And then the commissioner is going to have to monitor the participating companies for their financial solvency as time goes on, as they're participating. He's also going to have to submit an annual and quarterly reports to the legislature's insurance and finance committees, telling how the program's going and how the insurance companies are doing. And he's going to also have to give a preference to the companies that are willing to write wind and hail policies, because that seems to be where the big problem is. It's not so much in your basic policy, but it is the wind and hail where the drastic increases are coming in and where so many companies are just refusing to write, or maybe refusing to write in our area, for example. So if a company can fit those guidelines, and the commissioner obviously is willing to take these steps, to take on these tasks, then that will allow the companies to participate in the program. Then we had House Bill 2, which was introduced by Chairman Stefanski, and that bill specifically deals with who is not eligible to participate. We've learned some things in the past from 2005 till now,
Sure.
And so some of the restrictions that are in his bill included that an insurance company whose parent company has either declared bankruptcy or been declared insolvent cannot participate, or an insurance company whose officers, directors, or their controlling shareholders were, in the past, an officer, a director, or a controlling shareholder in an insurance company that had declared bankruptcy or was declared insolvent cannot participate. So not only are we going to be looking into, or the commissioner, going to be looking into the financial standing of the insurance companies that want to participate, even their leadership is going to have to fit this criteria. So we don't want someone who's been an officer in this company that was insolvent or went bankrupt to now be an officer in this new company and access this particular funding stream. They're going to have to go a ways and prove that they really know what they're doing before we're going to use this kind of grant money to help that company. We really want to help strong companies, whether they're the ones that exist here now or whether there's some that want to come in. That's what we're looking for, because that's what we need.
Okay, now for the particular, I guess, incentives themselves, is that something that the commissioner himself solely decides on, or how does that work?
The companies have to be able to write a certain amount of policies so that the premiums, it's like match money. They have to write 4 times the amount of the grant that they get. So let's say the smallest amount of a grant would be $2 million. They're going to have to write 2 times 4, which would be $8 million worth of premiums in order to be eligible for the grant money. Also, they're going to have to hold those policies for 5 years minimum to get the grant money, because the money is not coming to them from the first day. The money is going to be given to the insurance company 20% per year over 5 years. So it's not instant, and it's not just a handout that you're going to be able to go and run rampant with. You actually have to do insurance business. You have to write policies. And a certain percentage of those policies are going to be required to come from what they call the GO zone, which is the coastal zone, 37 parishes in the southern part of the state. Now, we can't require all their policies to be written here because the insurance company has to balance their risk. So they might want to write a number of policies in Shreveport or Monroe or Alexandria and then have a portion down here. That way they balance the risk, at least the risk from hurricanes. So we have these things
so
in
the
place.
premiums that, let's say in the figure you said $8 million worth of premiums, that all, is there a certain percentage that has to be from this area, or how does that, or does all $8 million have to be from, because I was a little confused about what you were saying.
Sorry. Yes, it can be confusing. I'm trying to remember what the percentage would be that would need to come from the GO zone. It doesn't necessarily have to be Terrebonne, but it does have to be one of the 37
so a certain
parishes.
percentage of that amount.
Yes, I think 50%
I see.
of the premiums that they write using the grant money would have to come from GO zone parishes.
Well, that's it. Has there been any talks with any of the, I guess, the insurance companies that have pulled out on whether they're thinking about coming back, or is that still stuff that needs to happen in the future?
I haven't been given the names, but the insurance commissioner said that there are 5 companies that were participating in the program last time around, and this time he has heard from 7 that are interested.
We're going through what took place over the last week with the special session. Of course, that's one area that able to help the legislature is able to get involved, but of course that's not the only, I guess, thing that can be done just by the incentive. I mean, the incentives. What are some other, things that are being looked at to help with this crisis?
Well, you're right. This bill that we passed, or these 2 bills that we passed to go ahead and launch the incentive program, it's really just a drop in the bucket. It's some people have called it a Band-Aid on the floor of the House. When I spoke with Joint Budget and when I spoke to the whole House during the special session, I didn't use the word Band-Aid. I called it a tourniquet, because my hope is that it will stop the hemorrhage until more help arrives. I'm hoping that it will stop people from losing their homes and stop people from being forced to close businesses and move out of state. So it's a tourniquet in that sense. Now, the special session call was very narrow. It only had the 1 item. And so this was the only thing we could do during the special session. But because we've now had more robust conversation across the whole state, there are other things that I'm hoping to see in the regular session. There are steps we can take to remedy the insurance industry here, to try and resolve the insurance crisis. And I'm hoping to see a lot of bills with many different ideas that we can consider. Some of the ideas that the State Insurance Association has listed in one of their reports recently, they had a whole list, like a wish list, which I appreciate. So coming from the independent insurance agents and brokers of Louisiana, a few of the items that my colleagues and I have been talking about were steps that would reduce the unnecessary or redundant bureaucracy and the excessive regulatory burdens that prevent insurers from effectively managing their business in Louisiana. Anybody who's in any business in Louisiana knows that we have a lot of regulations here that sometimes other states don't even have, and that puts a burden on businesses that are here and businesses that want to come here. And so if we can relieve some of that for the insurance industry, we're only helping us.
Sure.
We're helping ourselves to be able to have insurance. Another would be reform the bad faith statutes and provide a clear standard of how insurers pay property claims. A lot of people had a lot of experiences after Ida here about just how quickly or slowly some insurance companies can pay claims.
Yeah, I'm working on that one myself, about
You're not
following
alone. You're not alone.
You still got 2 years from the date. Of course, that's one of the, I guess, the only, real incentives that you can get for them to pay quickly. The problem is, they still don't do it when they're overwhelmed, I guess. And
Right. And I'd rather them be a little bit late than to shut down completely, but we really did, I think we'd already passed some legislation a year ago about timelines and how quickly an insurance company needs to respond, especially with things like sending an adjuster out and getting the adjuster's
Sure.
report to you when you request it. And so we still have more work to do in that arena as far as paperwork and red tape and regulations. And in doing these things, it not only helps the citizens who have insurance or who want insurance, but it also helps the insurance companies, because then they'll have clear guidelines as to what is expected, and hopefully it'll ward off some lawsuits where things have been unclear. And then another request that they have was to add more flexibility to our insurance rating laws. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the insurance rating laws to see what it is that they would like adjusted, but between now and the end of the time limits that we have for filing non-budget bills for this session, I'll be having more conversations with insurance agents and insurance company owners. And I don't sit on the insurance committee, but if there's a bill that I can bring that will help, then I'm happy to do so. But we are going into a regular session that is a fiscal-only session. Sure. And that means that each House and Senate member only has 5 bills they can bring, except for the tax and spend type Sure. bills. And so it's going to be interesting to see what manages to make the cut. And we do speak with one another, amongst colleagues, to see who still has available slots for good bills. So if somebody has a bill idea and it's already got a lot of support, and somebody else has space to carry that bill, then we're all behind them. Because whatever we do to improve our insurance industry here in Louisiana benefits the whole state. It's not just a coastal problem.
It certainly isn't, but it's one, anybody that owns property in this area can tell you how serious of a problem it is, and we need something to change to hopefully, lessen the burden on people, especially when you see just regular inflation happening in everyday items as well.
Yes, and we are not the only coastal state. We are not the only state that gets hit by hurricanes. There are other states who are doing some things better, and we do communicate with them to learn from them. A month or so ago, there was a little delegation of House members that joined me. We went to Florida and we spoke with the governor and his staff over there, and one of the topics we discussed was, what are y'all doing about insurance? What can we learn from you? And so it was a good discussion. We brought back some bill ideas.
Well, certainly they have had their share of hurricanes just like we have, and it's a good place to look, and we thank you for coming on and explaining everything to us.
Sure. The program goes live around February 20th, and maybe we can see some new policies in March or April.
That's perfect, because that's right around the time I'm going to need it. All right. Thank you. Stay tuned for more right here on HTV.